Hey guys, welcome back to Home Surf. Hopefully you're doing good and having a great day. I love you all, and I'm so glad you could join me again today. We're talking about relationships and how relationships are actually transactional, how they actually are, and what you should really expect when you get into a relationship. I'll honestly kind of give you, a little bit of help on what exactly to do, what exactly to look for, and what you should expect. And so we're going to break down quite a few things today. But where I want to start with this is that unfortunately there's this belief that relationships can survive off of love alone. And then when you get into reality, and when you get into the actual world, you begin to realize that that's not the case at all. Matter of fact, you begin to learn very quickly that not only are they transactional, but they're extremely brutal when it comes to transactions. When I mean transactional, I mean there's always going to be a give and take in a relationship. And there's a specific way that each partner is going to give and take. And I'll be specifically talking about heterosexual relationships. Now, for years, unfortunately, we've been told that women can find their prince charming, and that men can find a loving and caring woman that will love them no matter what, and that the prince charming will love them no matter what. But that's not reality, and this is the idea that we've been sold on. And so when we begin to realize this and we begin to learn the reality of things, it really turns to exactly what we're seeing today with the black pill spaces and all of these women who are crying about Chad on TikTok and YouTube and all this other stuff. And so it's because it's not just because we haven't been taught what actually works, but we've been taught what doesn't work and are reinforced that kind of conditioning. Why else why else is it that this wokey feminist mentality is always pushed? Why is it that men are constantly berated? Why is it that women are always propped up no matter what? Even if they're doing wrong, it's always, yeah, girl, you go get the bag, take everything that you can from him. And then in the situation where the alimony is flipped from the woman to the man, then he's a bum. He is a loser. She doesn't have to give up any of that. And mind you, this is mainly happening in the. I mean, this is pretty. No. This is mainly happening in the West, but it is happening other places in the East. But it is happening mostly here, and that's why our societies are collapsing. But we see all of this stuff happening, and it's actively pushing for a net negative for society, of course. And so already people go into relationships with a bad mentality that as long as we love each other, then we'll get through anything. And you're already losing at that point because again, the understanding of love is not a selfless one. It's a selfish one. And I say selfish because as soon as things begin to go bad, or as soon as a low hits in a relationship, like it always does, every relationship has highs and lows. It's just life. Then people begin to look for another option, or they outright look to leave. And this mainly happens with more women than it does men, but it is something to say that both people do this because, especially in our generation, we're so willing to give up when things get hard. Well, when it comes to relationships. Now, other things like job markets and everything like that, which is understandable. And given the current situation with dating, economics, the political atmosphere, I can understand why people would give up so quickly. But as a man, well, I mean, as a person, really, I can't really condone the quitting. When you're single, work on yourself. Work on being the best version of yourself that you can be, both mind and body. That's why I tell you guys every single episode, or excuse me, every single video, to work on your mind and body. The whole purpose of it is to be the best versions of yourself. Now, I also hit more men than I do with women on this because obviously the it's the men that really must change, and I'll get to that here in a second. But you must always be ready. You have to be ready. You don't know if someone will try to sucker you into a multi-level marketing company. You don't know if a politician will outright lie to you for votes. You have no idea if someone will even try to use physical violence against you, and you have to be ready for that. If you want to survive and have a successful life, have a wonderful family, caring family, loving family, then you must be ready. And men absolutely have to be on this ball at all times, right? Because the women and children are going to look to us for protection and provisioning. That's just how it's always been, and it's how it always will be. And because they look to us for protection and provisioning, we are the ones who stand at the top. And listen, ladies, you got to get over that. You got to get over that. You have to. There's no competing with men. You cannot do what men can do. And it's just how it is. That's just how it is. Because as soon as soon as this AI, or as soon as these AI programs are implemented and taking all of these jobs that mostly women have, that will be replaced by AI, you'll have nowhere left to go. I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but it does stand to reason that women are going to be looking for men who can financially support them. But on the other end of that too, you know, men have also had their futures ripped from them just as women have. Women have been convinced of this lie that they can chase career rather than family, and that they can focus solely on themselves instead of the family, and that makes them happy. And anything that has anything to hold that back, it's seen as something negative. While at the same time pushing for such degenerate behavior, such as all of these, all of these chicks that are twerking and dancing for money and starting OnlyFans and stuff like that. But again, on the other side of that too, men have also had their futures ripped from them the same by the job market being squeezed, by colleges constantly scamming people, by the monopolies of these giant corporations who are looking so much to pretty much cut the bottom dollar, and that bottom dollar being the American people. Factories don't pay as much as they used to. Obviously, inflation, and then wages haven't kept up with that nearly at all. And so, that being said, the more expensive things become, the more poor men the average man becomes as well. And so pretty much there's no viable option for any man or woman today. Or very hardly any. Because most men can't afford to take care of a wife and a child, or at the very least a woman. And most women are not worthy enough to be a wife. Dressing as they do, acting as they do, you know. And so pretty much the only thing that's really going to fix this is to understand what actually works, come back to what actually works, or we all die out. Nature will always reward the fittest and the strongest. So, and fittest, strongest doesn't always have to be a physical thing. So, what actually works? Well, first of all, you have to consider what culture you're in. Because the number one thing that tears people apart the most is cultural behavior. And I say that because look at what's going on today. There is no one, hardly any man that is outside of the Western culture that is even going to look at an American woman or a Western woman. There's none. There's none. Not at all. Now, on the other side of that too, men face their own struggles when it comes to a multicultural relationship. And or at least a dicultural relationship. And a lot of men have had tough times going to the Philippines, Thailand, places such as those where traditional women are easier to find, but the culture often, kind of drives people apart too. And that's something that a lot of people don't really want to talk about, but it is something that happens. And so that's something that you should really consider. If there is a language barrier, that's going to create a huge problem because the biggest thing for relationships, is communication. And if you can't communicate, there's no point in even trying to build something with someone. The next thing to consider is morals and values. And religion is the biggest one for that. Now, over here in the West, Christianity, I would say, is kind of surviving, but I would say on a thread. I would say by a thread, not on a thread, by a thread. And I can't remember. I can't remember exactly how many people identify as Christians here in the United States. I can't remember if it was either 40 or 60. I want to say 60. I can't remember exactly. But it's going to present a lot of problems, right? Because again, that's a different culture. And culture, like anything else, depends on where you grew up. And as I've been, talking to you guys about that, America is a melting pot, right? There are all kinds of different cultures here living amongst each other, and even so much as down the street. And so even that's kind of hard enough to, find someone who is compatible with you. Because I'll give you a personal experience. when I was Christian, when I was religious, I would say. I was married to an atheist, and we had completely opposite worldviews. We had completely opposite morals and values, and that created a rift very, very quickly. And it was, I mean, it was absolutely miserable. I can imagine it was miserable for both of us. And so, if those are just two different cultures that don't mesh at all. And so, if you want to have a successful relationship, you have to mesh together and mesh together well, right? Agree, or at least come to a compromising understanding, right? Agree in morals and values, and not just religion, but politics, how to raise children, views on men and women, the roles to play in the relationship, a future, a vision on where the family's going. Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself the next 5 years? Do you want to plant roots exactly where you are, or do you want to go somewhere else? Do you want to go overseas? Do you want to stay in the country? What do you want to do? So these are some things to really consider, and it is the man's job to do that, or initiate it, right, and figure out a direction. And if his woman is on board, and listen, ladies, you got to communicate, man. You absolutely have to communicate. This is the biggest problem for women, is that they don't communicate, or at least for Western women. They don't communicate. You guys just expect men to read your minds, and that's you're already failing, and you're not going to have a successful relationship ever if you can't communicate. If you just break down and not say anything, or if you just lash out and get absolutely angry, you're not. For one, you really shouldn't be dating if you're doing that. I mean, same thing for men too. But if you're just breaking down, you're not doing, and you're not having a conversation, or if you're getting absolutely angry and just losing your lid over everything, you need to work within yourself before you can even think about jumping into a relationship. So, but culture, that's extremely important. Family, that's extremely important. Morals and values, religion, look at that stuff. And to touch a little bit more on family, how does a family unit work? Now, it's not a guarantee and it's not a tell-all, but it is something that really explains quite a bit. And that's something that you guys should really pay attention to, both men and women, regardless. Now, unfortunately, because of the way things have been happening in the economic sphere, the political sphere for quite some time, it is pretty difficult to find someone who actually has a healthy, stable family. But it is doable, and you can absolutely find it. I would just say that it would be more advantageous for men to go overseas, because that's when you're going to find the healthiest of women. Now for Western women, look, you guys got to fix yourselves. You absolutely have to fix yourselves. You have to. Okay? Because, and this is because you can't do what men can do. And so you will always rely on men. So, because you rely on men, you absolutely must fix yourselves. There is no other option for you. Can you go overseas? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can. That's true. You can. You could probably do the same thing, but it's not going to be seen the same thing. It's not. It's really not. It's not going to be seen as the same as a man going overseas and finding a wife. Again, because you're going to be facing cultural differences, and often it's harder for women to change than it is for men to change, because women are a lot more stubborn than men are, or at least what Western women are. We've seen that time and time and time again. Now, women who have a brain and have critical thinking skills and can think for themselves, they are absolutely open to change. If they know that they're doing something wrong, they'll change it. Western women, or I should say the modern Western woman, is not capable of doing that, and she will double down and double down and double down until she's crying crocodile tears on TikTok for views. But I would like to see a change back to traditional norms and men staying here and having healthy, successful families. I would like to see that. But there are way too many women here that are just not willing to do that. And that's why I say, women, fix yourselves here and men, go overseas. That's why I say that. Because it's too far, and it's too far and in between for a man to find a good woman to to say anything different. Now, on the other side of that, and this is actually what I think I'm actually going to get to here, because this is something that I've been thinking about for a little bit. I've been seeing people taking up kind of a homesteading kind of thing, but essentially buying their own land and building their own communities, self-sufficient communities. I think that's going to start happening a lot more often. And this is where both men and women can fix themselves, because it's not just women that have to fix themselves. It's also the men. I'm just harping on women right now because I started talking about women. So, but again, culture, morals and values, family. Another thing to think about too when it comes to family is, how do they honor their parents? How do they treat their family members? How do they act within the family? What is their view on family? You know, and so you want to hash that out right away. You don't want to wait. A few dates in, you want to get to, you know, the bottom of it very quickly on the first date. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? 5 years, 10 years. Where do you want to go with your future? What kind of family do you want? What kind of man are you looking for? What kind? Well, maybe hold off on that, because you you'll begin to find the kind of man or woman they're looking for by the questions you ask them. And by asking questions as, what are your morals, your values, what's your religion, uh, how do you vote, can often tell quite a bit about someone, right? And it's always about behavior. Pay attention to how people behave, not how they not how they speak to you, not what they tell you, right? What are their views on commitment? What are their views on marriage? What are their views on children? You want to get an understanding if they're going to be a good investment or not. And this is what you guys should really pay attention to. for my men, you want to know if she's going to be cooperative with you, if she's going to be submissive, if she's going to be supportive of you, if she's going to follow your dream. Right? If she's going to be perfectly happy to take care of the house and children. And then for the ladies, you also have to make sure that he is stoic. That he's capable of doing what has to be done even when no one else wants to do it. That he is capable of leading and directing, and that he can handle the situation, any situation that comes up. But that he also, puts you in your place. What that means is that he's letting you know that he has it. He's taking care of things. Right? I've said this before. It's not about telling you to shut the fuck up. Of course, there are quite a few times where we have to tell you to shut the fuck up. Because women know other women, and listen, you guys do some crazy shit. We have to tell you to shut the fuck up sometimes. And that's just how it is, But it's not thinking less of women. Just recognizing that men and women are different and we have different responsibilities. Because that's what reality is. And that's why so many relationships are failing today, because we're not living in that reality. We're trying to force something that isn't natural for us. And so, again, what I mean by, being submissive and him putting you in your place is that he shows you that he is capable of your trust when it comes to the leadership, being the head of the house. Okay? That's what I mean by that. And anytime you have any worries or questions, you come to him and he assures you that everything will be okay. And that he shows you that through his actions. That's what that means. And that's what a lot of people misunderstand. That's what the submissiveness is that you are giving him the reins to worry about what he needs to worry about so that you don't have to. A lot of people want to be the leader of a relationship, but they don't realize that there only needs to be one leader. There only can be one leader. And that's not the woman. And, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but it's not the rule. And we often know what happens when the man is not wearing the pants in the relationship. We all know how he's treated. If you will remember that Instagram post where there was a woman who got down on her knee and proposed to her boyfriend, how the comment section was filled of women who were just berating and attacking the man for being proposed to. That is reality. That's reality. Women want a man who is strong, capable, stoic, but can put her in her place when needed, which is often. And a man is looking for a woman who is soft. Doesn't mean weak. Just means she leans into her feminine nature. She's nurturing, she's caring, she's supportive. She's trusting. She recognizes the importance of a man, the value that he brings to not just her, but the future family. And a man recognizes what a woman brings. Obviously, children, yes, but a home, a haven. Because I will tell you, there is nothing more exciting than coming home to a beautiful smile and a warm, warm meal after a hard day's worth of work. Right? And this is the transactional thing that I'm talking about here. Men absolutely must be in their masculine frame, and women must be in their feminine frame. Women must be supportive, submissive, nurturing, caring. And men must be stoic, leading, dominating, charismatic, strong, capable. All of these things that come with the masculine frame. Because we are the ones that brave the world. And this is what I'm talking about, men fixing themselves. Stop paying for this OnlyFans shit. The only way that our society is going to fix itself is because men are the ones that go out and fix it. The reason why these women are on OnlyFans is because they're actively taking an opportunity for quick and easy cash. And men are allowing this to happen. Weak men who can't control themselves, who more often don't have the attention that they're craving. It's absolutely disgusting. I remember looking at this little Tay girl, yesterday, and I thought it was absolutely disgusting that within 24 hours she made $1 million, a whole milli. She made $1 million in 24 hours. That is beyond disgusting. And then on top of that, she was announcing that when she was, I was even seeing some comments saying that she was saying this at 9 years old, which I think is absolutely crazy that a 9-year-old will be saying something like that. But from the majority of the comments, I was seeing 11 or 12, and I still thought that was incredibly insane. But even more so that men were pre-ordering this shit. That is disgusting. I mean, it's already bad enough that men are actively buying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of OnlyFans content. But to pre-order from an 11 and 12-year-old, these people should be investigated. And it is mostly men that are doing this. Get off the fucking couch. Go make something of yourself. Stop being a fat piece of shit in your mom's basement. Get up and do something. Okay? I'm talking to the losers out there who are spending these thousands and thousands of dollars on OnlyFans content. That's who I'm talking to right now. Stop being a fucking loser and make something of yourself. But to the ones who are ordering, pre-ordering from 11, 12-year-old, you should be buried underneath the fucking prison. Anyways, listen. Men, we have to fix ourselves. We have to be what our grandfathers were to have our women of today return to what their grandmothers were. We are the example, and if we are not putting these women in their place, then we're only doing ourselves a disservice. Why are we constantly complaining instead of actively taking measures. Now, I will say with men walking away completely, that things are beginning to change. And with this new trend of homesteading, essentially, I see things changing even more drastically. Of us going back to pastoral living, at least, but a massive switch for the average person to become self sufficient in smaller communities. I see that happening. And I see that happening within the next 5 to 10 years, especially with how advanced AI has become. So, I mean, that being said, there's really not much else to really talk about, except for, what to expect, which is something that I've already kind of covered, and that's, you know uh, what to expect from yourself and the other person, because commitment is something that you are actively investing in that's bigger than yourself, right? When you're going to the gym and you're losing weight, you're committing to a vision of yourself that is leagues above what you are today. When you are committing to a career, you are committing to financial gain that is, I mean, hopefully leagues above what you're making today, right? Or when you're going to school, when you're training, some kind, there's a vision, there's a goal. It takes commitment to get there. But it also takes commitment to build a successful family. And that's just what it takes. It takes both parties to commit fully. And most people have forgotten that. Mainly women. Mainly women have forgotten commitment, because as soon as things get hard, they bounce. And they're on to the next one. But the men do the same too. With black pill, I've got to hold everyone accountable here. And these men are giving up entirely on everything. And so commitment is more than just the honeymoon phase. There are going to be ups, there are going to be downs, and there can be really good ups and there can be really bad downs. Then that just comes with life. That's something we all have to accept. And so that's what it means. And that's what it means. So, but us men, we have to change first. And by men walking away, by honestly by men pumping and dumping or going overseas, I think that is it right there. By men going overseas, finding women overseas. Pumping and dumping, I don't think is really solving any problems. It's just, well, it's not solving any problems. It's only aggravating the problems. That's why I don't tell you guys to do that. Of course, us men, we have sexual needs. It's true. But if we're engaging in that, we're only perpetuating hookup culture, and that's not helping anyone. So, what do you do? And it's extremely hard to say, but I think what the solution is taking up, what this trend is doing, and homesteading, learning how to farm, learning how to build, learning how to herd cattle, right? Learning how to use a firearm correctly, learning how to training, learning all the skills that you would need to protect and provide for a family, as a homesteader. And then finding a woman, because it can happen, finding a woman who is capable and happy to do something like that. Or go overseas. Those are the two options. I don't think there's really much else to talk about. So, but to kind of recap, commitment is committing to is committing to something bigger than yourself, investing into something bigger than yourself. It's a selfless act. You choose every single day to be selfless, to commit to the family, to commit to each other. Right? Men actively choose to go to work every single day, to brave the world, to bring resources back to the family. And the woman actively chooses every single day to get up, make breakfast, lunch and dinner, clean the house, take care of the house, take care of the children. And she's committing to the family. Everyone knows their roles. The man is the head of house. The woman supports him, submissive to him. And they understand this from the start. From the start. They recognize who the they recognize how the family functions, how they treat each other in the family. And their morals and values. Do they agree? Can they compromise on culture if need be? Do their cultures agree? Sometimes the only way to do things is to get together with someone that's in the same culture. I was trying to find a better way of saying that, but so yeah. And then it's just and choosing to actively stay and work on yourself in the hard times. In the hard times. Because there will be hard times. Family member passes away. A pet passes away. Maybe finances aren't doing so well. Maybe someone's sick. You gotta do what you gotta do. But you do what you have to do because you are actively committing to that family, that family, that unit. So, but keep in mind that if you falter on any of this stuff, there will be some consequences. And that's what a lot of people can't really seem to understand. When they say, "Oh, love will get us through," and then they're overweight, and they're not strong, they're not capable. I'm talking about men right now, but they make a lot of money, and they wonder why their wives are going and having affairs. Well, look at you, dude. You're a toad. Go work out. Or the wife outright leaves him and takes half of everything he has. Well, there could be a few things that happen there, but these there are these guys who are expecting the world. They're expecting the world for themselves, and they, quite frankly, don't deserve it because they haven't worked on themselves to earn the world. And the same thing for the women. Looking like fucking hookers. with these leggings and tight shirts. Always showing as much skin as possible. Being confrontational with men instead of conforming or compromising or complimenting or complimenting. Supportive. Compliant. So, yeah. If any of these, if any of these happen to fail, then it's over with. The transaction is done. So that's what you should expect. Do your part. Play it well, and you'll be rewarded. That is love. You give and you receive. That is love. So, heed these words, man. But I think I've said all I can. Hopefully things will change. Time will tell. Time will tell. And we'll see. We'll see. I don't expect them to. Because there's a lot of people that are set in their ways right now, especially women. So, we'll see. But hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, please like, share, subscribe. I'd love to have you guys join the family. Because I do quite a bit of gaming content. I do dioramas, I do music and stuff like that, but the whole reason the channel started is to help people out. Right? That's the reason for all the entertainment. So, I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please help me to reach as many people as possible, especially here in the West, because things really need to change. Things need to change. We need to go back to what worked before none of us are working at all. You know, because we would all have died out. So, but yeah. Please remember to take care of yourselves, both mind and body. If you happen to need me for anything, just reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to, be there for you guys, because everyone needs, an ear or time, or everyone needs an ear a time or two, and so I'm more than happy to help out any way that I can. So just reach out, guys. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please look after yourselves, look after each other, okay? And again, if you need me for anything, just reach out. I'm always here. I wish you all a lovely day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.